That movie is a shit show. What you think you see, what you think you hear, that's what it's about. It's all a theater of the mind. No, it's garbage. It's garbage. Mood and atmosphere. Now that I really like. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I want to see. Hey, what's going on, everybody? What's happening? What's shaking? What's doing? I'm just making sure Darren's microphone is on. It is on. Welcome. It is Sunday. It's Sunday afternoon. Well, it's Sunday evening across the pond over in the UK, of course. But it is Sunday afternoon here in Toronto, Canada, 1:13 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Sunday, April the 3rd, 2022. And I thought, why not jump on for a little bit and talk some movies or whatever you guys want to talk about. Halloween! Yeah, okay. Calm down, Charles. And because you never know, maybe Halloween might come up. It might. I doubt it. I mean, it's not like we have Halloween fans or anything. But anyway, I asked the guys over at the Slaughtered Lamb Movie Podcast if they wanted to join me. Now, Frank, we love Frank. He wanted to be here, but Frank is out working today, busting his ass, making shit happen. So Frank could not be here today, but don't worry. I plan on having both Darren and Frank on the show where we'll have like a specific topic we're going to talk about. We're going to do that very soon. But Darren had some time this afternoon to join me for just a relaxed Q&A. Darren, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. This is a treat. A nice Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening here treat.
Yeah.
Are we talking fonts today or anything like that?
No, well, I think we're going to talk, we can dive more into that, but I was thinking more about the top 10 nose hairs of Dr. Loomis. I think that would that'd make an excellent topic. Top 10 nose hairs, followed by top lapels, because I know you're really into that one. Top lapels on his trench coat.
It does wind me up, I have to say, that switch in lapels in that on that trench coat of Loomis is there, but never mind. I saw one channel once who did a top 10 vehicles in the Halloween franchise.
Really? Top 10 vehicles?
Top 10 vehicles. So there was a station wagon, Brackett's car, Phelps truck. It just went on and on. And it's like, who is watching this?
Well, it's got to be, I would say then that hang on, let me just bring you down a little bit. There we go. I would say that the station wagon must have been number one, right? I mean, how could the station wagon not be number one?
It must have been. It must have been.
I mean,
and they had the ambulance from number 4, and it just went on and on with all. I never even thought about the vehicles in Halloween before, other than the station wagon.
Same. I don't think vehicles when I think Halloween because they're just kind of there. It's not like the Fast and the Furious or something like that. I don't know. Well, that's interesting. We could do a top 10 nose hairs, top 10 lapels, top 10 Myers bootlaces. I think that might be an interesting one we could do. Top 10 nose hairs. 10. There's 10 opportunities where you can see them, folks. There's 10.
Marion's going to win, I think.
Either Marion or maybe Bud. Bud might.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, top 10 nose hairs in the Halloween universe, and we have like a diagram where we're zooming up, and it's such poor quality that it's pixelated, but we're like, drawing a red circle around where it is. We're analyzing the hair follicle and how it's sort of like if it leans to the left or right, and where the airflow, which direction the airflow is coming from. It, whether it's blowing in the breeze. If we did that and played it dead straight and dead serious, that'd be really funny.
I once worked with a guy. This is a number of years ago when I worked in cinemas. And we were doing a job on a new cinema. There was a new cinema opening up. We were setting up the projection room, and I had a can of Coke, and I had a drink out of this can of Coke. And I put it back on the table, and the guy I was working with had this big mustache, this really big, thick mustache. And I said to him, he said to me, "Can I have a drink of your Coke?" And I was like,
I know where this is going.
I just thought that I wasn't into that anyway. So I just said, okay. So I handed him this Coke, And as he had a drink and passed it back to me, I heard this kind of twang. The ring pull twanged, and there was a tash hair stuck to the ring pull.
Oh, that's great.
Said, you know what? You might as well keep that if you want.
I know what you're talking about when you hear the the stash was so long you could hear it flicking off the aluminum or the not the aluminum, well, whatever the can's made out of, right? Is it aluminum or what is it? It's
aluminium, aren't they?
Yeah. That's it. Not aluminum. That'd be funny. But yeah, I can hear. I know the sound that you're talking. That's really funny. Yeah. Why would you do that? When you're kids or something, you're teenagers. You always like, hey man, can I have a sip of your drink? Or can I have a sip? That's normal. You're 15 or whatever, right? But if you're an adult, hey, do you mind if I have a sip of your drink? No.
I know.
Go get your own.
I'd never ask somebody, especially not now.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, that's great. Hey, Andrew Stevens comes up with this the first super chat of the afternoon at $10. Thank you, buddy. Says, for the lapel on my NECA Loomis figure. Yes. But Darren is right. Darren, you are correct that the lapels on the Loomis trench coat. See, this could be a video. The lapels on the Loomis trench coat at the beginning of Halloween 2, when he not when he shoots Myers, because they do recycle it, right? The footage from the original film. But when he walks downstairs to the door, to the front door, to the back door, I guess, his lapels are larger. Yeah. They're more pronounced. They're more, they're huge.
It's that moment when he bangs into the door as he gets kind of down to the ground level. Right. And that's what I kind of really liked about Loomis in Halloween Kills, because he did exactly the same thing.
He did.
As he came out of the house, he went into the door frame.
Yes,
which is what Donald did in H2.
I noticed that when I saw it the first time when I was at the screening, and it was one of the things that I noticed. Bruce, obviously not being the hardcore, in-depth, sweaty, nerdy Halloween fans that we are, he probably wouldn't have, he just was like, he knew who it was, obviously, being Dr. Loomis, but that was something that I picked up right away. And it was one of the things that stood out. I would love to ask the actor that played him, whether that was, because you almost, it's almost hard to believe that it would be a happy accident. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It almost feels, because it's so the movement of Dr. Loomis, that you almost feel that was intentional. And you know what? I got to say that if I was the actor and somebody said, did you do that? Oh my God, this made you, and I didn't, I'd be like, oh yeah, yes, I did. Yes, that was totally, I just lie and say I did anyway. I mean, why would you say no and break somebody's heart? You're going to say yes, it could be the make or break moment of whether or not they want your autograph. I mean, oh, you didn't? Oh, well, I'll just take this somewhere else. I'll just go over to James Jude Courtney instead. No, don't worry. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing.
I just tripped. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing.
Yeah, I tripped over the dolly track that was in there. I didn't, cord. There was a, big cord I tripped over. They didn't have it down, the sand, or a sandbag. I tripped over a sandbag. That'd be so funny.
Or his lapel.
Yeah. Before we... His lapel is so huge, it's hanging down to his down to his knee, down to his feet. Before we get to some of these questions, I want to ask you your thought on this. Don't you think that it would have been, what is it? Don't you think it would? I've always found that, and you probably heard me say this, that at the beginning of Halloween 2, when he comes out to the door and he does that thing where he leans in the door and he sees that Myers is gone. Even as a kid watching this, I always found the snow angel imprint of Myers a little comical. It looks cartoony. It looks like when the Looney Tunes cartoons run through a wall and there's that outline of them through the wall. Like, it just looks so silly to me that I've always felt that you didn't need anything there. You just had to have him look, see the empty spot. He walks over to it, kneels down, puts his hand down, and then sees the blood. And that's the sign that he was there and now he's not. You don't need to show like this outline. I think it would be far more effective and eerie just seeing that blood and seeing the look on Loomis's face like fucking bastard. You know what I mean? Rather than seeing this, do you feel that way, or has it never bothered you?
I was amazed by the fact that, in the time it took Donald to run down the stairs and fall into the door frame, they'd grown a full lawn.
Darren's the party pooper here, but he's right. He is right. It was a whole. They sawed the whole thing. They have the whole. They did do that. Yeah, it's true. But do you feel that way, or has it never really?
No, it did. It does look comical. I know what you mean. All you need to do is have him kneel down and, like you say, just rub his fingers. You don't need to. It's like, when was it Naked Gun, when they're wandering around and there's all those kind of lines or imprints around the bodies.
Yes.
It wouldn't like around a horse or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is. It's kind of, it's borderline parody sometimes, isn't it?
It is. And the first of all, the impact that I mean, you would have had to have fallen from 10 stories. And even then, we've all, when we're lying on the grass as kids or teenagers or whatever, and we're lying there and we're looking up at the sky or the clouds or whatever. If you lie there for any length of time, especially if it's a lush field or something, and you get up, you'll see a little sort of matted down spot. But that's because you're lying there for like an hour. You know what I mean? It's not like perfectly, it just looks like a gingerbread man, like a little, and I just think it looks so silly and completely unnecessary. It doesn't ruin the movie for me. Still my favorite sequel, but I do think it is kind of silly. Yeah. But no,
it's still, I'm a huge fan of Halloween 2. And I don't, I think Dick Warlock comes in for a lot of stick now and again, that he's too robotic, and in my eyes as a kid, when I first saw that back in the early 80s, it was the same guy to me. In fact, I think it was difficult for me to comprehend that it could be anybody else. A 10-year-old. And so I've always been a big fan of Halloween 2, and it does roll over so seamlessly. There's no question whether it's the same night or not. It looks exactly the same, apart from a few little kind of aesthetic things.
Yes.
But, that movie to me is growing up was fantastic. And I mention this all the time. People get bored of me hearing it. The firewalk is still one of the greatest stunts I've ever been done.
You've helped me to appreciate the firewalk, I think, more than I ever did. And you always know, having watched the movie, God, hundreds of times, probably not hundreds, but many, many, many times, maybe hundreds, who knows, over the years, you know that it's using flames. But when you have somebody else say, no, think about that. Like, look at that for a moment. How many other firewalks, I'm sure maybe he is engulfed. That's Dick Warlock. And he is engulfed. Like, it's nothing. That's not to take it, away from other great firewalks like Freddy and Elm Street and, what have you. But this is like full on. I don't know if that was intentional or Dick. I could see Dick in the outfit there, and you can tell like he's got the fire suit on, whatever, but he's walking down, and if it was me, I'd be going, this is great, holy shit, I can't see anything, this is okay, guys. It just seemed like, was it supposed to be like that, or did it just kind of get out of control a little bit? They did too good of a job. It is absolutely epic. You're absolutely correct.
And also, I don't know whether anyone else finds this, but after the firewalk, and I think it says Laurie's got into the ambulance, we get that shot of the mask on fire, or is it? Yes. I can never work out what it is or what angle it is, or whether
I think it's a close up of the mask, maybe sort of from the profile, because he fell to the ground on his face, right? So I think it's kind of like here, and you're seeing the eye hole and the flames coming out of the eye hole. That's what I've always seen it as.
Right. Okay. I've never been able to figure it out. I've sat watching it kind of like this, and what am I looking at here? I know it's the mask, but from where? What angle? Are those eye holes?
I think so. Yeah. No, I think it's the eye holes. Yeah. And seeing the flames come out of the eye holes and things like that. But yeah, I mean, it is my favorite. And to me, the series is 1 and 2. And then if I want to get, really crazy, I watch 4. That's how crazy Dave McRae gets. But to me, the series is 1 and 2 because I think it's the perfect ending. I think just the fire and the burning and everything that's it. It's not that I don't appreciate some of the things that they've done later. But yeah, that sequel is again, I mean, it sort of ruins. It depends how you look at it, right? Because we know the original is supposed to be the one-off movie, and that's it, and there is no explanation, blah, blah, blah. So you have to watch the first movie. There's 2 ways you can watch the first movie. You can watch it in a vacuum with its original intent to be a one-off movie. He's not the brother. She's not the sister. It is just, he's gone. That is the message of the movie, you can't kill the boogeyman. Laurie does have an arc in that movie. She goes from not believing to believing. Tommy was right. All that kind of stuff. So and then that's just the end. It's like a Twilight Zone episode, right? Or it just kind of ends like that. Or you can watch it because of the sequel. You can watch it with the sequel in mind, knowing that it goes on. So there's 2 ways you can watch the original film. But watching the original film for me with that sequel in mind, Halloween 2 is the perfect bookend to that. It does feel like the same night. I mean, again, there's a few little things that are a bit different, but it feels, I don't think there's ever been another sequel to Halloween that has felt more connected to the original than that movie.
Yeah, I don't think they could have done a better job, really, at all. I think it was spot on. And it came into some flack from the critics just because of Halloween was Halloween, and it's always, with a film that good, it's always going to be diminishing returns, and so it's. But I love it. I love it.
I do too. And my favorite moment is the Janet kill. One of my favorite moments, because I've often said it's the most Halloween 1 moment in Halloween 2, where she backs up, his face comes out of the darkness. Oh, it's one of the best moments in the franchise, period. Yeah. The way that Cundy shot that, the way that it was great. I wish there was more of that, actually. And then, of course, the scene where he's walking across the parking lot and she's like, oh, it's so good.
The red light is fantastic, but also I've really, and this is only over the last few years, and this sounds a little anal, I guess, but I've really come to appreciate another shot in the film, and because of this kind of significance behind it, and it's the moment when Loomis tries to shoot Michael and the gun doesn't work,
and his head turns.
His head turns really quickly, as if to say, "You were going to do that. You were."
Yeah,
it's that kind of real anger that he has at the thought Loomis was going to shoot him point blank. And just the way the mask looks as he quickly turns his head, the aggression in it. I think that's an awesome shot. For sure.
Although I guess he has already shot him, so maybe it was more, seriously, dude, again? Come on. This close? I mean, I could understand down, the end of a hallway, but come on, Doc. Come on. You're my dad, kind of. All right, let's see what some of these people are saying. Peter Anthony Production sends in a very generous super chat of $19.99. Thank you, Peter. Really appreciate that. Says, love the show, Dave. And what's up, Darren? Thank you very much. Appreciate that. What's up, Darren? From Peter Anthony Productions, director of Roseblood, if I'm not mistaken. I think so. I think that's the same, Peter.
That's great fun. A great Friday the 13th fan film. I really enjoyed that.
Mark Williams sends in $4.99 and says, saw Halloween 2 in theaters last week in 35 millimeter here in California, I'm assuming. Loomis's line, "You don't know what death is," got a loud applause into the credits. I'm not surprised, because it was probably a bunch of sweaty Halloween nerds. And I say that with affection because I can be a sweaty Halloween nerd. I mean, come on.
Yeah, we all can.
We all can. So I can, I saw a, I don't know if it's because up here in Canada, we're a little more passive, maybe, I don't know. Or maybe I just don't go to the right movies. But I saw a clip online of a theater in the U.S. I think it was in the U.S. And it was from Spider-Man No Way Home. And somebody had shared when the moment that Andrew, spoiler alert, but come on, it's April, when Andrew Garfield shows up and Tobey Maguire show up through, the portal and all that. And the theater is erupting like it's a fucking Stones concert or AC/DC or something. And everybody in the you can't hear the dialogue at all. On the screen, all you see is, because it's just, you see popcorn flying in the air and shit. I told you. It's like Arsenio Hall in the early 90s. It was crazy. I'm watching this, I'm thinking, okay, so there's two sides to me. There's part of me that is like, because I'm not that big into Marvel and that kind of stuff, there's part of me that lives a little vicariously through that, because I'm like, oh, that's fun. Like that's, you know what, like what a thing to be able to, like, imagine making a movie, you know, and having that kind of reaction, you know. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there was a Black Christmas fan out there that watched It's Me, Billy, and went, ah! Yeah! I doubt it. But, you know, I'm just saying, to affect an audience like that, there's part of me as a fan and as a filmmaker that goes, wow, that's such a cool thing. And then there's another part of me that wants to be like, shut up! I can't hear what they're saying! Shut up, please! Shut up! Shut up! I want to get, now I can't rewind it. I can't pause it and let this boil over. No. So there's two sides there. How do you feel about that, Darren?
It was a great moment. And, you know, I those of you that know me better than others know that I have a link to that particular movie with the job that I do. And to see that reaction when the movie was released was amazing. It was just everything that we'd done over the last 2 years. It was just all summed up in that one little bootleg clip. It was fantastic. So it was really cool. It
is. You know, I mean, obviously I've, you know, never made a movie like that, but you know, I can imagine what that must be like. You know, not just for the studio, but for the filmmakers as well, you know, to see that kind of reaction, because that's what it's all about. It's all make-believe. And whether you're doing superhero movies or horror movies or comedy or drama, you know, the goal is to, you are manipulating your audience to feel a certain emotion. And when things land, and they land really, really well, not everything lands, right? Sometimes there's a miss, and you know, it happens. But when there's something in the movie that you want to land and it lands, man, I can only imagine that must be, because there were a few little things like that in Billy, for example, that when we were shooting the movie, we were like, oh, we hope that, and it did, you know, not necessarily it did for everybody, but certainly there were a few things that we got compliments on that we were hoping that people would notice, that kind of thing, right? So I can only imagine what that would be like at that level. Sorry, Darren, go ahead.
In our house, when you did the premiere and me and my wife sat and watched the film, we absolutely jumped out of our seat. That one particular moment, I think it was the bit where there was the jump scare towards the end with was it his hand or something? I can't remember.
Hand comes down from the ceiling, yeah.
But also the bit where the girl's creeping across the bed,
right?
And
he
take it sort of beyond the point of people expecting something to happen, and then bang. Yeah. And there was a few choice moments in that particular movie in your film when Mark and I watched it at the premiere that we were like, Jesus, he really has nailed it here. I appreciate you saying that. It means a lot, right? You know, because you don't know what's going to work or what's going to land or not. In an earlier draft of the Billy script, actually, Justine was going to wake up in bed like she does, and she was going to be lying there. This is one of the first drafts. She was going to be lying there on her side, facing the other way, and Billy supposedly comes into the room. Of course, we don't. You know, everything plays as is up to that point, the way you see it. But then it was going to be quiet as it is, and you'd hear like, you know, like something like that. And she was going to open her eyes and she was going to roll over, and lying in bed beside her was going to be Billy, and the moonlight was going to be shining on his one eye, and she was just gonna, and then he would leap on top of her from that perspective. There was a couple of reasons why we changed it. One of them was just logistics of it, just felt, and then another one was
this might be seen as comical too. Like, how did he get into bed with her? And he's lying there and, psst, hey, and there was a part of me as I was going over the script with Bruce, we were looking at it going, yeah, it could work, but it might not. It might be seen as a little funny, and we didn't want that. So we thought, how about she rolls over, we track across the bed, she rolls back over, and he's right there. You know what I mean? So that's what we decided on, which I think worked better. But yeah, I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, it means a lot. Mark, oh no, I got Mark Williams. Let me see. There was another super chat. I think, did I miss that? Oh, no, here it is. I got it. Geeked Out Turtle Fan 41 sends in $5, says, hey guys, your thoughts on Bruce Willis's retirement and favorite movies he's been in? That is a great question. I'll let Darren start.
Oh, I think it's really sad. It's interesting that I feel really guilty because and I think I sent this to you, Dave, but there's those of you who know Red Letter Media did a month or so ago, did a piece on Bruce Willis and the fact that he's doing all these kind of really kind of low rent movies, that banging them out at 6 or 7 a year. And some of the stuff's like kind of filmed locally to where he lives, and then they insert it. And in some movies you can see that he's even wearing an earpiece, and he was sort of being accused of not being able to, I guess, not learning his lines. Let's put it that way, of just not learning his lines, and people were feeding them to him. They did, however, say that there could be some sort of medical condition as to why he wears an earpiece on set all the time. And there was no attempt to kind of digitally remove this from any of the scenes that he was in, because it's probably too much for the budget on these films. Yeah. And then to learn a few weeks later that the reason why all this is happening is because he's got a cognitive condition is really, really sad. And, Bruce Willis was one of those guys that, and there's a few actors that are just Bruce Willis in every film that he's in. And he is. Whatever movie Bruce Willis is in, he's Bruce Willis. Forget the character names that he plays, but there's not much variation in the characters that he does. Yeah. The same can be said for people like Michael Caine, or can be said for even like Tom Cruise. They are that person in every single film that they do, and it works and it's great. But going back to when I was a kid, and obviously Die Hard is one of my favorite movies of all time. And I hate to say it, and I'm probably going to get some flack for this, but one of my guilty pleasures is Armageddon.
I love Armageddon.
Armageddon is bonkers. I
saw it twice when it came out in the theater.
Yeah, and for me, has one of the best lines in an action sci-fi film ever, which is Will Patton, Hawkins, when he turns around and just goes. I think it's the bit where when he's got the space dementia. What's his name? Steve Buscemi.
Right.
And they pull a gun out on him to try and calm him down, and Will Patton just turns around and goes, "What are you doing with a gun in space?"
This is true. It's true. It's true. Yeah, that's good.
But it's really sad about Bruce Willis. But the Red Letter Media piece that they did, I think it's about an hour and a half long or something. It's really interesting, and it all falls into place now as to why he's been doing the sort of movies that he's been doing over the last few years. It's really sad.
Yeah, I agree. It is sad, and it came as sort of a shock. I think these things do because there's a few reasons why. We often look at these larger than life people as almost not real people in some ways. And there is evidence of people doing, the things and getting away with certain things. The most recent Oscar thing notwithstanding, of course, I'm talking about just more, there's years and years of privilege, being a celebrity and that kind of stuff. And there's a world that Hollywood creates that is very surreal and all that kind of stuff. And when we think about these people, they almost don't feel like real people, even though, they are. They almost feel like superheroes, gods, your favorite He-Man kind of thing, and at the end of the day, they are just people doing a job that just so happens to make them well known to the public. That's it. I dealt a little bit with that, not at that level, but a little bit of that with my own father. It was very weird when, I had a little bit of a taste of that. It was kind of strange in some ways, because to me he was just dad. He was just dad. So there's that, and I think that's why when something like this happens, like when Robin Williams committed suicide in 2014, it was like, wow, that hit me hard. It was like, holy crap. With Bruce Willis, I don't think anybody should, now that we know, I think, you should stop making fun of him maybe, but I don't think anybody should feel guilty about it, because nobody knew. And it's not unprecedented for actors later in their life to get into look at Nicolas Cage. Yeah, he's making a bit of a semi comeback right now, but for many years there, he was doing the same thing, phoning in roles, doing, just shit, really, at the end of the day, even though he's extraordinarily talented, Academy Award winning, I believe anyway, right? For Leaving Las Vegas, I think is where he won his Academy Award. So, extraordinarily talented. Bruce Willis, same thing. It just looked like maybe he was in some tax problems or money problems, and he got into an issue where he just had to take all these movies. Okay, hey, you got to do what you got to do. But it did feel like he was phoning it in, and we all kind of, because we love Bruce Willis, so we weren't making fun of it because we were just disappointed. I think a lot of fans were like, "Come on, Bruce, do something now. What are you doing?" But yeah, you sent me the Red Letter Media's video, and there's images. They show you images of Bruce, first name basis, Bruce Willis on set with a few of his most recent films, and you can actually see the earpiece in his ear. 100%, it's there, and that would be to feed him lines for sure. Yeah. And now, why you would show that, why you wouldn't digitally remove that or just shoot from the other side so you don't see it, I don't know. I guess they just didn't care, unless it worked, like he's playing like an agent and it made sense for him to have an earpiece. I don't know, but
you raised that it was kind of, they put that aside, didn't they? They said there's no reason for him to have an earpiece in.
Right.
I think a lot of stuff that he filmed within the space of half a day or something like that, and then they would use body doubles for him, for distance shots and things. So yeah, it's sad. I mean, look, we've all got bills to pay, and when you think about John Travolta's another one, he does a lot of these kind of low rent action movies.
The Fan,
the
Fanatic or whatever it was. I got a poo, whatever that was.
I remember that one, yeah. And another actor that's kind of going into that realm right now is Liam Neeson.
Right.
He used to be churning out these kind of low rent. I saw a trailer for an action film of Liam Neeson's that's coming out over the next month or so. I can't remember the title of it now, but it's directed by Martin Campbell, who directed, Casino Royale and GoldenEye and Zorro and all these big action pictures. They've all got bills to pay still. And so they're obviously going off to these kind of, probably a lot of the time, either South American or Eastern European production houses that are happy to sign them up for 4 or 5 pictures and have them do as little as possible,
That's it. No, you're right. And it's hard to believe, but I mean, Bruce Willis, I think, is 67. So, he's closing in on 70. And unfortunately, just because you work in Hollywood and you're an A-list actor or you're an actor of any sort, doesn't mean that you're not susceptible to the, life and what happens. There's lots of actors in Hollywood that when they get to a certain age, they get sick. I think it's just, Bruce Willis obviously is a household name, and he's in your mind. He's just, it's just his status that makes it a lot more, out there. And it's sad. It's too bad. But at the end of the day, yeah, if he can't cognitively understand or he's having a lot of trouble, it is the right thing to do. And you know what? I mean, you never say never. Obviously there's no cure, but maybe with some medication and some time away to alleviate the stress and the pressure, having his family around him now that he doesn't feel, maybe he won't, I don't know, but maybe he won't feel the pressure of having to work, and he can get some help that he needs. And maybe, I don't necessarily think we've seen the last of him. I mean, maybe in a starring role, maybe as the lead perhaps, but it wouldn't surprise me if he showed up in a small role in a movie again, or a television show or something where, he's there and he just kind of shows up and you're like, oh, that's Bruce Willis. And maybe with it managed, he can do some things, a little bit. Will we ever see him do another Die Hard? Probably not.
No. Although the year one idea that they were going to do was him as an old John McClane looking back at his career as a younger cop, wasn't it?
It's true. The only thing I will say about that is I've always been under the impression, like Dr. Loomis, that John McClane, although a good cop, tough cop, street smart cop, had never gotten himself into anything even closely resembling what he got himself into in Die Hard, which is what makes him the fish out of water. It's like, oh my God. And then he has to tap into that natural sort of street smart alecky kind of thing that he's got to be able to get himself through it. If they show John McClane the younger years, like 10 years before that, I mean, they're going to have to show him dealing with all sorts of people, getting into all sorts of stuff. And I never really imagined him that kind of cop prior to Die Hard. I always imagined that Die Hard was the catalyst that propelled him into this crazy cop life that he had. So that's the only reservation I have. It's like, what was his life before Die Hard? Probably pretty boring, because then it makes him just ordinary. Because if he's like a superhero 10 years before Die Hard, then it kind of takes the everyday guy out of Die Hard. That's what I've always thought. But you are right in terms of the age there.
One of the desk guys in Cagney and Lacey before he was in Die Hard.
Well, maybe not a desk guy, but certainly not like, hanging from buildings and that kind of stuff. But my favorite Bruce Willis movies, the original Die Hard, of course. I even don't mind Die Hard 2. Armageddon.
With a Vengeance is...
With a Vengeance is good.
Fantastic action movie.
Yep.
Really good.
I even like that one he did with Sarah Jessica Parker. What was that one?
Striking Distance.
Striking Distance, yeah.
Wow. God, that came from the back somewhere.
I think it was like 97 or 8 or something. I don't know. Yeah. And there was a little one he did, which was Die Hard in Nature, called Hostage. Do you remember that one?
Yes. Was that Denzel Washington?
I don't think so. Let me just do
it. No, that was Siege. Sorry, that was Siege.
Siege. You're thinking of Siege. Hostage was 2005. And it was Bruce Willis, Ben Foster, Michelle Hamm, Kevin Pollak. I didn't mind it. It's got 35% on Rotten Tomatoes, but I didn't mind it. But he was basically playing John McClane in a non-Die Hard movie, very much like how Eddie Murphy was playing Axel Foley in not Rush Hour. That's the other guy. Metro. Right. Yes. Metro. Like that's basically a Beverly Hills Cop movie. Do you know what I mean? And the only difference really is that now Axel Foley has braids. Or cornrows or whatever he has in his hair. So I was kind of like, this is kind of, and that to me is what Hostage is. It's like, this is John McClane, But yeah, very sad, very sad. All right, super chat comes in from Happy Sanjo, sends in $10. Thank you, Happy. Says, Darren is a goddamn legend. Unbreakable is Bruce Willis's best movie. Darren is a goddamn legend, and Unbreakable is. Do you mean? Well, Darren is a goddamn legend. I'm just trying to figure out which way you're trying to go here. Do you think that Avatar 2 can stand on its own, or will the movie talk only really focus on Avatar 2's box office and not the quality? I see what you're saying. Darren, what do you think?
I would say I'm not a fan of Avatar at all. Once, and I couldn't see what all the fuss was about. I'm not a huge sci-fi outside of Star Wars. I'm not a huge sci-fi fan, so I went in there and I thought, yeah, it was okay. It was just the zeitgeist got in with Avatar, and people, of all ages. It ended up being, for whatever reason, a 4-quadrant movie, and people went to see it. But do I think that Avatar 2 is going to cut it? All I'd say is just never underestimate James Cameron at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's so many times he's proved us wrong. With Titanic, with the original Avatar, everybody the knives were out for Titanic like you wouldn't believe. And there was so much trouble with the making of that film. And then all of a sudden, what happens? Biggest film of all time.
I mean, Titanic made two, like, think about this. There are, what is there? There's Titanic, Avatar, Force Awakens, Endgame. I think there's only 4 movies over 2 billion, right? I think it's something like that. Well, Titanic made 2 billion in 1998.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you know, I was 19. I mean, we're not talking a billion. We're talking 2 billion 24 years ago. Yeah. You know, and since then, there's only been like 3 or 4 other movies that have done it. So, never count out James Cameron. I am an Avatar fan, not because I think it's, you know, changed the face of cinema in terms of its narrative or that kind of stuff. But it was an event, like Darren said. It was popcorn fun that I really enjoyed, and I really enjoyed the spectacle of it and seeing a story being told in a way that we've never seen before. Like, it just, the effects were amazing, and the 3D was how you do 3D. It was subtle, and it was just complimentary, you know. It wasn't old school 3D, like that kind of stuff. They don't do that really anymore anyway.
Opening the world up, wasn't it? It was opening the world up rather than the world sticking something up your nose.
Correct. And it was shot for 3D, not transferred for 3D. Because there's a lot of movies, most movies after Avatar got the 3D treatment, you know, even the Star Wars films did. And I hated it. It. It just looked, because it wasn't shot for that. Whereas Avatar was. And Avatar 2, I think, is. Now, and I don't think they're going to have this for Avatar 2, but I read that James Cameron was tinkering around with technology, like 3D where you didn't need glasses. Yeah. Like that. I don't think that's going to happen for this movie, but it's coming. And that's crazy to me. Yeah.
I mean, hopefully it is going to come one day, and the problem you've got is retrofitting this is
theaters.
Me speaking from experience now, retrofitting all the theaters globally to do that in a time when, you know, many theater companies are struggling because of the pandemic. So go around and do that. I don't know. I don't know what they've got planned, but it would be new technology being introduced into cinemas is always tough. They tried it with high frame rate with the Lord of the Rings, and you know it just didn't catch on. Yeah. So
it's interesting too, because one of the things, and James Cameron, he like the technology that, you know, I've often said this, you've heard me say this, Darren, that the technology they used to create Avatar, not all of it, but a lot of it ceased to exist before Avatar, and it was revolutionary in so many ways. And a lot of the technology they're using on Avatar 2 is the same thing. And one of those things, I believe, I'm a little hazy on the details, but is shooting for water. And they've motion captured, I think, people in tanks. And James Cameron, there's something called, I think, wet to dry or dry to wet, shooting wet to dry or shooting dry to wet or something it's called. Whereas, you know, the way that you would naturally do it is that you would just shoot people, mocap them, and then just digitally add the water after the fact, is my understanding. But they actually shot in water, and he needed to take so many years to figure out how to do that. And he wanted to do that because he wanted to have how the light hits the water, how the light shines through the water, to really have it authentic and really organic and not digitally. I mean, listen, there's going to be thousands among thousands of digital effects in the movie, but just that concept alone is like, wow, what are we going to see here? It's never been done. And it's like, what are we going to see here? He's mocapping in water? Holy shit. Like, what are we going to see? You know, and I mean, listen, Terminator 2, The Abyss, Aliens, you know, True Lies, Titanic. The guy he doesn't...
movies. It's amazing. I mean, although The Abyss wasn't as big a success as what you'd think, it really struggled. But even now, I mean, such a great story and a great, you know, that technology that he was using for the aliens was kind of in its infancy, but still
Yeah.
looks great. And then he kind of perfected it a lot more for Terminator.
That's right.
But I do like The Abyss, and it's such a
I
shame that
love
you
The Abyss.
can't get that movie anywhere.
I know.
You know, in a decent format. You know, there's no Blu-ray, there's no 4K.
I have it on DVD.
Yes. Yeah.
I know that was apparently a very difficult shoot for the cast and crew. I think there's a joke that they called it the abuse or something like that.
Right. Yeah. I think we talked about it with you on one of our shows last year.
I think so. Yeah.
And yeah, I think none of the cast will talk about it because it was so horrendous. And I think, and from what I've heard and what you read up online, that Ed Harris actually chinned James Cameron because he put him through the ringer so much. So yeah, talented guy, but obviously, and I think like Tim Burton, who comes from an art background, James Cameron, I think, comes from that background as well, if I'm not mistaken. Before he was directing, I think he was an art director or something like that. Yeah, he was. He was on Escape from New York.
Right. So it doesn't surprise me that as a director, that a lot of his films have strong aesthetic appeal to help tell his story. So yeah. Anyways, happy. Yeah, I do love Avatar. I personally think it gets, it doesn't deserve the hate that it gets. And I'm very much looking forward to part 2, and whether it'll be the highest grossing movie of all time, you know, who knows, but it doesn't have to be either. But I think to say that, again, to sleep on Avatar, I think is a mistake. Doesn't mean it's going to be great, but I think it's a mistake to do so because of the pattern that we've seen. And the technology this is going to be another film that will present something that we've never seen before in the history of motion pictures. That doesn't mean you're going to love it. That doesn't mean you're going to like it. But in terms of the technology and the execution, it's going to be another thing we've yet to see. So
it's exciting, you know, whatever like I say, I'm not a huge fan, but I do really get excited about what technologies they're going to use and how it's going to progress the motion picture industry. For sure.
Agreed. And look at that. See, I like Avatar. Darren's not crazy, and we're still friends. This is the way it goes. We'll have it out after the show. Robert Kitzmiller sends in $5, says, any thoughts on the 4-hour nightmare comedy Disappointment Boulevard, starring Joaquin Phoenix, from director of Hereditary, coming later this year? I've never heard of this movie. Have you heard this movie?
Yeah, I have. It's Ari Aster, isn't it? I think, who directing it. 4-hour comedy? Is that what it is? Is he changing genres now?
I don't know. 4-hour nightmare comedy, Disappointment Boulevard. Let me look this up. I've never heard. I haven't heard of this yet.
I mean, I'm down for watching anything Ari Aster does because Hereditary, and you know, I know Summer.
It's A24 again.
Midsummer really polarized people, but I loved it. I thought it was really unsettling.
Hereditary, you mean?
Midsummer.
Oh, Midsummer. Yeah. I like Hereditary better, but I didn't not like Midsummer. I liked it. It says here, Disappointment Boulevard is an upcoming American comedy horror film written, directed, and produced by Ari Aster. It stars Joaquin Phoenix, Nathan Lane, Patti LuPone, maybe, Amy Ryan, Kyle Rogers, so on. There's a lot of people in there. The film was produced by A24 in the company's third collaboration with Ari Aster after Hereditary and Midsommar. It is scheduled to release in 2022. The synopsis reads, the film is described as an intimate, decades-spanning portrait of one of the most successful entrepreneurs of all time.
Okay.
All right. Well,
I'm up for it.
Maybe it's a 9-hour movie. I don't know. What was that movie that actually, was it A Boy's Life or something? That movie where they actually shot over a decade or something?
That was the...
Wasn't Ethan Hawke in that?
Yeah. Oh God, I can't remember the title now. They shot it over 3 decades, I think.
Yeah, not A Boy's Life, but it was something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah. Chat room will let us know.
Yeah.
Yes. It was okay.
Yeah.
It was a lot of effort.
The concept really interesting to be able to do that, to pick it up again. Happy Sanjo, another $5. Thanks, Happy. Says, fun fact, the rat-breathing liquid in the movie The Abyss is 100% real. They just haven't perfected it for people. Mm-hmm. Fascinating. Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, I think there was issues with that in our country. It had to be removed because they saw it as animal cruelty. I think they lost that particular scene in the original release of The Abyss in the UK.
Whenever I think of The Abyss, I always think of that scene, not necessarily with the rats, but when, what's her name? What's her name again? The actress's name?
Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio.
Mary Elizabeth Mast. That's it. When she's in the thing, and the pink, is coming up, liquid's coming up, and they're all like, it's okay, breathe, let it happen, whatever it is. And I remember that as a kid. I remember actually being fascinated with that concept. I adore that movie. I think The Abyss is a great film.
It really does need a good special edition doing.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Boyhood. That was the name. Boyhood.
Thanks, Cody.
Boyhood. Thank you. Yeah, everyone. Really appreciate that. Okay, I think I've got all the super chats. I believe so. I don't think I missed one. So let's see if we can get a non-super chat one in here. If you see any, Darren, that pique your interest, by all means, let us know. The Sound Painters Studio says, Brandon Lee will forever be cemented for me as that character. It would be disrespectful to replace his performance like those bad-looking sequels I'm sure no one has heard of. I don't know if you're talking to somebody else in the chat room or...
Bill Skarsgård, who's going to play the Crow, I believe.
Oh, really? I thought that was an April Fool's thing. Is that true?
No, I believe it's true.
Oh, okay.
I believe it's true. I think the April Fool that got a few people on Facebook the other day was the fact that, there was two that I saw. One was that there's a Ghostbusters TV show with Dwayne Johnson that's coming out, which we're all kind of liking and all that sort of stuff.
He teaches ghosts how to get ripped.
Yeah, and the other one was Barry from Wolfman's Got Nards. Did you see his Halloween trailer breaking and launching in 30 minutes? Guys, get ready.
Do you know what? And I guess it's kind of sweet in some ways. Is most people obviously are like, oh, nice one, but there's always that one. It's like, whoa, no way, and you're like, come on.
Well, these things are. It's interesting, isn't it? Because before we came on today, I was just kind of clicking through YouTube, and I've been watching a lot of Mel Gibson interviews recently. He's got a few things coming out, and I was just interested in how he got to do, or how he's going to do the Lethal Weapon film.
Right.
There's not really giving much away, but how it became is really kind of sad, which is Richard Donner obviously got ill and leant over to him and said, if I don't make it through this, will you direct it? And so he said, I've just got to direct it. And because I've been looking at Mel Gibson interviews, it served me something the other day, which it was Lethal Weapon 5 trailer. And there was this kind of grainy picture on there, like someone had done it in an auditorium or something like that. And it's kind of like crack, isn't it? It's like if you're sitting in a room with a gun on the table, it's not going to be long before you pick it up and start waving it around.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
So I couldn't help but, I knew it wasn't going to be genuine, but I couldn't help but click on it to take a look.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same with these kind of, if somebody did the same with the Halloween Ends trailer, and then you look, there are fake Halloween Ends trailers out there that have got thousands of views.
I know.
And it's like, we all know they're fake.
Yeah.
But yet we just can't resist let's just have a little look. Let's see what's going on.
Yeah. Well, somebody, I think back in February, it was somebody had messaged me through my Facebook page. Many Things Dave McRae, shameless plug. And they had said, do I think this is real? So they had sent a link to a trailer to Halloween Ends, but it was like at the beginning of February when Halloween Ends had only been shooting for about 2 weeks. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, So I had to say, I clicked on it and it was, it's somebody filming their computer screen, trying to make it look like they're in like an auditorium in a theater. And it was a mishmash of stuff. I saw Rob Zombie clips in there and all this stuff. And I just said, no, it's not. And like, oh, okay, thanks. But maybe they're not a regular viewer. Maybe they're not. See, that's another example that we often talk about, right, Darren, in terms of there's the bubble and then there's the general movie going audience who tunes in every now and then. To them, it might have looked as real as day, especially if you don't understand the editing process, and it might have looked really real. But I just had a chuckle because I'm like, the film's only been shooting for 2 weeks. Like, it's funny.
Now and again, you do get those films that go into production, and as soon as they've gone into production, or even before they start production, there's a teaser or a first week of shooting teaser or something like that. It's possible, but with this, there's no point, is there? I'm really enjoying. I think I said this to you the other day, but I'm really enjoying the fact that we pretty much know next to nothing about this new Halloween film. That nothing's really leaked.
Yep.
It's all hearsay. It's all sound bites from different interviews that different people involved had done before, during, and after the shoot. And so none of us can really piece it all together at the moment. And I think that's really exciting. If they can keep a lid on this, it's if they do a test screening, whereas it will be blown,
Well,
But if they can keep a lid on this until the trailer comes out, at least, I think it's fun. I'm enjoying this more than I am knowing about things,
Right. Yep. I agree. Although CinemaCon is in about, a little less than a month. I think it's the last weekend of April. I would assume that Universal would have a little something from Halloween Ends for CinemaCon, not necessarily a trailer, but maybe a little featurette or something that they started putting together a little while ago in preparation for CinemaCon. And CinemaCon, obviously, for those of you that don't know, it's not open to the general public. It's for the the theater chain owners and but there are people that do. Reporters, journalists, things like that. There are people that do get the chance to go and to experience CinemaCon. But usually whatever they show there doesn't make it up online. It's not like they release it to the general public. Maybe that it's something that will be eventually released, but not right away. Although you do sometimes get transcripts of a reporter's account of what he or she saw. I've read that before. I think they did that with 18 too, and maybe even Kills. I remember reading an article in Variety or something that was breaking, and of course you're imagining it in your own mind, and of course you never imagine anything that's garbage, so you're always like, oh, that sounds so great, and so I think maybe we might get a little, or we might start to get a bit of information from CinemaCon. Do you think that's probably going to happen?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been to CinemaCon a few times, and there's always things, the likes of Variety are always in there, and a Hollywood Reporter and things like that. There's always, it's supposed to be an industry inside event, but now it's grown so that reporters go in there now and they report on the things that they see. So there's every chance that you'll get some information out there. And obviously there's going to be people that are there that are fans like us, just because they own a cinema doesn't mean they're not Halloween fans. So something will come out of there, I'm quite sure, unless they chose not to show something. That's that's possible as well.
It's entirely possible. I don't, whatever it is if they do show something, it's just a feeling I have. I don't think it's going to be a trailer. I think they are, I don't know if they would have had, not to say they wouldn't have had time, but, to send, what they want to the trailer houses, have them cut it and things like that. Like, I think whatever they show is specifically going to be a CinemaCon thing, which maybe tells me it's a little bit of a featurette, maybe. Kind of like what they showed at in October 2021. When originally Halloween Kills was supposed to come out. They released that, 30 seconds, a minute, whatever it was. featurette sort of Halloween, showing, behind the scenes stuff, and we're from Haddonfield, couldn't be, remember that one, or whatever it is. I could see maybe something like that, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything's possible,
Yeah. Trailer though, I don't know. I think it's still too. I don't know. I don't think they're even.
Nothing, not for us.
Yeah, no. Yeah, whatever it is, it won't be for us. That's for certain. Happy Sanjo sends in another $5. Says, Darren, where would you want to see the slaughtered lamb in a year? Goals for the channel. It's a great question. Goals for the channel, and how do you feel about the YouTube journey so far?
It's been interesting. I'm really enjoying it. I'm absolutely, and Frank is as well. Frank can't be. I see a few people asking where Frank is. Frank is working today. He's probably kind of, I don't know, unhooking some deer's nuts off a fence right now or something like that.
We didn't want him on. We just didn't want him on. No. Shout
out to our buddy Frank. He desperately wanted to come on, but he couldn't. He was working today, so we agreed that we'd both come on in a few weeks' time. It's been a good few years. We started this thing in lockdown, and it was initially just an audio podcast, and then a few people were kind of egging us on to go on YouTube, and Dave threw a lot of support behind us as well, which was fantastic. We've got over 150 episodes out there, I think, at the moment, which now that we're all back at work and pandemic's eased and everything, we can't put out as much as we'd like to. So we're trying to do 2 a week, which is working so far. It's been a lot of fun. And where do I see ourselves in 12 months' time? Hopefully still doing it with a few more subscribers. We just launched our Patreon last week, and already we've got 39 Patreon members already, which has been fantastic. The support has been superb, and those Patrons are all enjoying early access to all our content, apart from live stuff as well, which we can't do. But it's going really well, and Frank and I are really enjoying it. We just don't want to bite off more than we can chew, and just keep going at a steady pace. Yeah,
it's great. I when you guys first launched, I know some people probably thought, oh, he's just throwing his support behind them because they're his mods. And no, if I didn't think it was good, I just wouldn't say anything. I'd wish them luck, and then that would be it. Sincerely, because it wouldn't feel, I'd feel dirty, trying to promote something I didn't genuinely believe actually had potential. But I love your chemistry. I listen to you guys all the time. I belly laugh at a lot of the stuff. What was it last night? I was watching, because I had caught your stream the other night, but I had caught it like halfway through. And then last night I went back and watched the first half, the poster one. Damn it. What was it that Frank said?
Could it be anything?
It could have been anything. There was something he said. Oh, and I was going to write it down too, because I knew I was going to forget, that I thought was hilarious. I was belly laughing in bed, and it was just so funny. So I think it's great. I mean, you got 39 patrons so far. You're over 2,000 subscribers. By the way, folks, here's the link to their channel. I'm just going to put it in the chat. If you have not subscribed to the Slaughtered Lamb Movie Podcast yet, do yourself a favor and subscribe to them. You will thank me for it. The content they have, the best and worst of, and what they're doing right now with the best and the worst of the slasher posters and Halloween posters and all that kind of stuff. And I've been on a few of their episodes, specifically the Elm Street series, when we did the best and worst of every Elm Street movie. You have to check that out. That was so much fun. Great content. I mean, you guys are consistently, bringing your A game, and it's just so much fun to listen to. So make sure you check them out, guys, for sure.
It helps when you've got, somebody like Frank, who's, there's some, when we started this, we kind of sat down and just had a chat with each other, and we recorded it. We recorded a chat between ourselves for, I think it was like 3 hours. In fact, I still have it, and we're all being incredibly polite and watching our P's and Q's and all that kind of stuff. And then over time, it just kind of started to evolve, and you just click with some people. And, even when the three of us work together, it just clicks, and we have fun. And we just don't want to take movies too seriously. We like to have fun with them. And, maybe nitpick here and there and things, but do it in a kind of, there's a sort of, you can tell that we've got a love for them.
Yeah.
We'll talk about any films.
For sure.
But yeah, it's, I mean, we've got Jaws: The Revenge we've just done, which is coming out tomorrow, I think. Yeah, tomorrow. And those of you that have seen Frank go off on a rant before, you've probably never seen one like this about that film. And I gave Dave a sneak peek of it earlier on today, and it was something special.
It's funny. It's very, very funny. And that's what I like. I like that. And it's so important that we poke fun at the movies we like. I mean, I know there are probably people out there that would think that I would never poke fun at Halloween, or I would never poke fun at Black Christmas, or some movie that I really, really love, or whatever. No, I absolutely would. I absolutely would poke fun at it. But I'm not poking fun at it because I hate it or I think it's awful. I'm poking fun at sort of the it's all in jest. It's because I love it, and because I love it, I'm able to do that. I mean, when you guys do the best and worst of a movie you really like, it's, you're not saying that because I'm able to pick up some things that are kind of, that's kind of funny or that's kind of silly, whatever, it means you hate the movie or anything. We have to be able to learn to laugh at ourselves and what we love and all that kind of stuff. So
it's all done with a lot of affection.
Right. Exactly. So. Intel Wild. Nice to see Intel in here. Haven't seen you in a while, buddy. Sends in $5. Says, just got in. Sup, Dave and Darren. Not too much, Intel.
Hey, Intel.
It's great to see you here. Haven't seen you around these parts in a little bit. Let me see here. We got the Geeked Out Turtle Fan 41 says, Dave, I was on the show talking about how he hates ugly kids from the Nightmare on Elm Street movies and Dr. Loomis's hairy knuckles. I loathe ugly children, ladies and gentlemen. It is the reason why I don't have children of my own, is because I'm too worried they'll turn out ugly. No, that's not true. I can say that in jest, and it is not true. It is a funny episode, though. Cody Snyder sends in $5, says, what's one movie you'd like to see at a drive-in? Also, how many drive-ins are left in your areas? I think we have around 300. 300? Wow. Oh, excuse me. I didn't read the rest of the sentence. 300 left in the U.S. I thought he meant like around him. What about you, Darren? Are there some?
There are some. I mean, they were popular during the pandemic, and we don't have many drive-in. I don't think we have any. They were just pop-up ones that kind of, companies just went into business to do so that films could be shown during the pandemic. But drive-in theaters, drive-in movies are not a thing in the UK.
Yeah.
I think the novelty was there during the pandemic, but since then I'm not quite sure whether it's continued. I certainly don't see any around me anyway. So.
Yeah, there is a couple of drive-ins not too far away from me. I guess they must still do okay in the summertime, or they wouldn't be there. But it's certainly not, the golden age of drive-ins has been long gone for decades. I remember in the 80s when I saw the original Back to the Future and the original Gremlins for the first time at the drive-in. So yeah. Gremlins was 84, so I was 5 years old. Back to the Future was 85, so I would have been 6. And I remember being there at the drive-in. And of course, that was when, the speaker was on the outside of the car. So it was, I think that's the case, because I don't think the radio thing came in to the 90s, but maybe.
What do they do? You tune in your radio now to?
Yeah, it's been like that for a long time. Yeah, there's a like
a short range broadcast or something.
Yeah, you turn on, you have, see, that's another thing too, is that in the old days, you could turn your car off, and because you didn't need your car on, right? Because it'd be the speaker you'd hook the speaker on the outside of your car, or whatever it is. And but with this, you have to use the battery from your car. So you don't have your car on, you just use the car's battery, and you turn on the radio, and then you dial to whatever station it says up front to dial to, 99.6 or something. You dial that, and then you'll hear the movie through the car.
Which is don't get home because your battery's flat.
Thankfully it doesn't, but I'm sure there have been cases if you have like an older car or something like that where the battery's all on its way out or something, but thankfully car batteries have gotten better over the years. But yeah, that is, I guess, a possibility. But the great thing about that too is that you can have your windows up, whereas back in the day, I've told this before, my dad was, he was like a combination between Chevy Chase and like Tim Allen, and it was hilarious. My dad, I don't know if I was alive, so this might have been back in the mid 70s or whatever, but he put mosquito netting all around the car, the windows, because it's the hot summer, it's hot, you want to have the windows down, but he mosquito netted himself out of the car. And my mother is sitting in the car looking at him, and he's like, he doesn't know how to get back in the car to enjoy the movie. And my mother always tells that story, or always told that story. Obviously, they've passed. She was like, this is like Griswold territory. This is exactly what Clark would have done, but that was back in the day when obviously you had to have the speaker hooked to the car.
Are they still a place where people, is there still that sort of kids fumbling around in the back of the cars thing going on now? And I don't know. That's what I expect a drive-in to be like the one that you see in Greece or something like that, where every car's kind of bouncing around and stuff. Is it still that sort of thing, or is it kind of like a more of a sort of niche thing now, whereas people who are nostalgic for the drive-in go along? Is it somewhere where you would choose to go and watch a blockbuster movie, or is it somewhere where you would choose to go and watch something that's an older film that suits that kind of?
I think it's both. Actually, I think as far as I know, the drive-ins around here, and like I said, there's only a couple of them left, will show like, the Batman or some big thing. Obviously not. Well, no, not now, because I don't think they're open. It'd be too cold. Yeah, I think it might be too cold. Yeah, because you have to turn your car off, right? You have to have the heat on, all that kind of stuff. So, but in the summertime, yeah, if it's some summer thing, I've seen them play. I don't know how well they do, but they're definitely there. And then every now and then you'll see them advertise like an older movie come back, like Jaws or Back to the Future or something to that degree. They were definitely doing that in both summers of the pandemic. They were doing that because I guess they could get people in there, because they could have the COVID rules, and you know what I mean? Because everybody's in their car. So yeah, it's a little bit of both. I think now though that, especially because kids are growing up in the digital age now, it's really just a novelty thing. It's just, it's not, I don't know how long it's going to be around, but I went about 10 years ago. I saw the first Avengers movie, in my car.
It's so odd.
It does. I saw my first event, but it can be fun too, right? It can be fun for a variety of reasons. It can be fun if it's just you and, your lady, and you can, maybe make out and have a little fun. You can be fun with the kids if they're behaved, and it can be an absolute disaster if you are the kind of family that is dysfunctional and unruly. It can be an absolute disaster, so I'm pretty sure if you were to walk around the cars, you'd see every walk of life,
Yeah. It sounds like a very British thing to me. It's, maybe if you could eat fish and chips or something while you're watching the film, maybe that would appeal to some people. But yeah, sitting and watching any movie in your car, to me, just sounds odd.
Well, it's cool too, because the screen is so big, right? That you're sitting there and you can put your chair back, and I don't know. I guess it definitely is a niche thing for sure. And its height was the 50s and 60s stuff. It's not really around anymore. Brandon Jackson sends in a super chat, says, "Hey, Dave and Darren, and it's me, Billy. Were there plans to do a drone shot at night of the house, or would it have been too costly to do it?" That's a great question. We did have ideas for drone shots of the house at night, establishing shots. We actually had this was a shot we wanted to do. The reason why we didn't do it, because drone pilots, especially professionals that work on movies, which our drone pilot was, his name is Adam Gamble. Shout out to him of Rise Up Pictures. That's his job. So it wasn't like a buddy of ours. To have him stay all day and then all night would have been quite costly. So we were able to make enough room in our budget to have him come, because he was coming from our area. So he was driving up from Toronto to Elmont, which is a 4.5 hour drive, right? And then he's got to drive 4.5 hours back. So we were able to fit him in the budget for the morning to get all those beautiful shots of the house. And we just, we had him go left and right and up and down and across the field and back and forth. And we just had him do a ton of stuff. We had ideas that we wanted him to do. And then he just went and did a bunch of things, and we were able to, pick from that of what we wanted to use. But we had a couple of, to answer your question, yes, we had thought about it. And there was one shot we were really wanted to get, which would have been cool, was we were going to be outside on the drone looking at Emma through the window. Do you remember when she goes to the window and she moves the curtain? We had an idea of then cutting outside and looking at her face, full on, going like this and like this. And then we were going to pull back, and we were going to pull back and pull back and pull back. And the only light that was going to be on was going to be, because she was going to turn on a light. She didn't turn on the light in the movie, but we were going to have her turn on a light, and then we were going to pull back and pull back and pull back. And then she gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And then she's going to look, and it's going to be a really neat shot of all this darkness around her. And you just see this window getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And she's looking around, and you hear the elements outside. And then she was going to kind of go, okay. And she was going to turn off the light, and the light was going to go out, and the picture was going to go black, which was a really, really cool idea. Unfortunately, it just wasn't in the budget to have him stay all day and go into the nighttime. So, but I think what we did worked at the end of the day.
It's like the end of Men in Black.
Sorry?
The end of Men in Black, when the camera pans back away from Earth until eventually Earth is, I think it's like a kind of little marble and an alien's playing with it or something.
Oh, I don't remember that
shot that they do. It's a visual effect, obviously, but
yeah.
I like that idea. I think it, that would have been nice. Yeah.
It was definitely something. It was an idea that we had that would have been a very visually sort of like, wow, it's really cool. Because, and the directing motivation behind it was to show the isolation, her getting smaller and smaller and smaller. She's vulnerable now. And it cuts to black. The next time we're going to see her, she's in the back of the car. You know what I mean? Yeah. Instead, we decided to do it the way we did and add this part where it's like, oh, did she got attacked? What happened? Oh my God, that kind of thing. So
yeah,
works both ways. But yes, to answer your question, we did have ideas. It just would have cost us a lot more. Drone pilots are awesome people and worth every penny, but not cheap. Let me see here. Did I get all the super chats? I think I did. I don't think I missed any. Let's see here. There's another one. There's another one that pops in. I'll get to that in a second, Anna. I just wanted to get a non-super chat one. Nathaniel Fincher says, we have a drive-in really close to me. Drove by it yesterday. They are playing Scream and Morbius along with two other movies. A dual screen drive-in. I see what you're saying. Yeah. A lot of drive-ins will have like 2 or 3 screens. So it's like it's a big field. You have like one at the other end, one at this end, whatever, in a parking lot and all that kind of stuff. And that's cool. Nathaniel, are you in the state? I guess you must be in the States. Or maybe you're here. Anna M. Pop sends in €9.99. Thank you, Anna.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to make some YouTube videos about horror stories for a while, but I've got a face for the radio. Oh, don't say that, Anna.
Not true.
Don't say that. That's not true. Therefore, I admire you guys for making such great videos about something we all love. Well, thank you, Anna. Appreciate you saying that.
Anna's one of our Patreons as well. Thank you very much, Anna.
Yeah, I think she's a patron of mine too. Anna's awesome. And Anna, I would just say that obviously putting yourself out there visually it's a whole other level. I mean, anybody can hide behind a keyboard, anybody can hide behind a microphone, but to put your face out there does take a certain level of confidence and with that and inevitably, depending on how big the channel grows, some trolls and things like that. So having thick skin obviously helps, but never let it deter you from doing what you love. You know, I mean, if you are passionate about it and you love it, I say go for it, you know.
It is. It's maybe, Anna, you want to start with an audio podcast just to kind of break yourself into it. You know, one of the difficult things is getting used to the sound of your own voice when you record it. It's like, really? Do I sound like that? Is that why I sound like a dick? I remember when I first started editing our podcast together, I would do it in quiet in the bedroom because I was like, my wife's going to hear this and I sound like an idiot. But no, I sound like an idiot all the time to her, so it makes no difference. But now I sit and edit them and run things by her and get her to listen to things, and I'm comfortable with listening to myself now. And so it's one of those things that confidence you gain over time, but also I still get nervous about doing them. When Frank and I sit down and the moment we say, right, are you ready? Okay, go. I've got butterflies, I had butterflies before we came on today. It's just a natural thing. And once you get into it, and start talking, you kind of forget that there are how many people watching now? 126 people watching now. That's fantastic, and you get more relaxed as things go on. But definitely I would say maybe try, if you want to do it, Anna, maybe start thinking about the audio side of things first. It's cheaper in case it doesn't work out for you. You don't have to worry too much about putting yourself in front of a camera straight away.
That's right. Great advice. Great advice. I mean, it's the number one reason why Darren wears Depends when he does the shows that he does, because sometimes he gets so nervous he tinkles, Do
they call it Depends in the US?
Adult diapers, Depends. I think it's a brand name.
I can't remember what they're called in the UK. They're Tenor they're called in the UK. NOR, I think. Yeah. That's
funny. I think Depends I think it's a brand name, like Kleenex,
Hang on a minute.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you just go, you pee, you poop, because sometimes, you get really nervous and well, I mean, that's what happens, right? I mean, it's totally understandable. I get it. I totally get it. But yeah, great advice, Darren. And I couldn't agree more. I think that's a great way to start. Start slow, don't rush, try the audio. Because listen, there are a lot of YouTubers out there that do in fact just stick to audio, and they're very successful at it. So you may find, although maybe you think, I kind of want to put my face out there, but I'm a bit nervous, doing the audio first, you might actually find a groove and find that you don't need to, you know what I mean? That's entirely possible as well. So great advice. Yeah, for sure. Let's see here. Chester Franklin Jr. says, Dave and Darren, if you guys have to interview an actor who played Michael Myers, who would it be? Well, for me, I would interview, well, I haven't interviewed him. I have met Nick Castle at the Fan Expo here in Toronto in 2015. And that was really cool. I met him twice, actually. I met him the day that my girlfriend and I went. And then the next day I went back to the convention with Bruce, because Bruce had never been to Fan Expo before. I had never been, so I wanted to go back and just look at all the trinkets and the t-shirts and stuff. And when we went back, Nick Castle was sitting at his table and there was nobody there. Like literally there was nobody in line. It was very early in the morning. He was sitting there with his handler, and they're just kind of talking. And I'm like, Bruce, let's go over talk to Nick Castle, because Bruce had never met Nick Castle. So we go over, and because there was nobody there, we stood there talking to him for probably about 15, 20 minutes, because nobody was in line yet. And then eventually people started to come up and line up, and we were like, okay, well, we have to. And because I had his autograph and a photo taken the day before, I thought, well, I got to let, he's got to make some money. So I left. But it wasn't an interview, but it was just kind of talking about the last Starfighter and Halloween and that kind of stuff. So that was really cool. But I would totally formally interview him because he's the OG. I think Dick Warlock would be cool to interview because he's like, the second OG. So that's kind of cool. And I think James Jude Courtney would be interesting to interview because he seems like such a nice, personable guy, and really good at he's probably the best Myers we've had since at least Dick. So I think, those three for sure for me. What about you, Darren?
I think I always find it hard to believe that you could get a decent conversation. I know Nick Castle's a lovely bloke and everybody says that, but his memories of working on Halloween are going to be so wafer thin. You know, you're talking about maybe 2 weeks of his life 45 years ago. I can't even remember what I was doing last week. Never mind. He was paid to put on a mask and walk around a house for 2 weeks. And I think his memories of that are going to be so thin that I would prefer, and Nick Castle's career as well, you know, bless Nick Castle, I love it. He's my favorite Michael Myers, but you know, his career is quite small, Nick Castle's. When you look at Dick Warlock, the amount of movies he's worked on as a stunt guy is huge. It is. And so I think interviewing him would be, for me, slightly more interesting than interviewing Nick Castle, although I love Nick Castle. And also, because it's fresh, James Jude Courtney will have a lot of tales, given that it's just happened to him for the last 5 years.
That's right.
So either Dick Warlock or James Jude Courtney, I think.
Great choices. Yeah. And I do agree with you. Whenever I see Nick Castle properly interviewed, you know, on other channels, he seems like such a sweetheart of a guy, like sincerely. But when you talk to him and when they ask him about Halloween, it is true. You know, he sits there and he goes, I think it was like this, and I think it was like that, and a lot of the times too. And I don't want to say that Nick is doing this at all because I don't know, but a lot of the times when you, because he was totally out of it. He was, and it was Sean Clark that got him back, you know, into the fold, so to speak, and Sean Clark played sort of a pivotal role in Nick Castle having a cameo in 2018 as well. So there's Sean was like, Nick, you should do, the conventions. And he's like, and then of course he tagged along one day and he was like, this is not about. And then, so I think, some of what Nick might be, and I don't want to speak for him, but I could totally understand, because it's been so long, some of the stuff that he might be recycling is just stuff that is out there in the pop culture that is already known about the experience through Tommy Lee, through John Carpenter and things like that. And Nick is like, yeah, I guess that's what it was. Yeah, I kind of remember that. So when he's being interviewed, he's sort of recycling the same things. Not that it's not true, but it's not necessarily any... And not that he doesn't have any personal memories or anecdotes. Of course he would. But like Darren said, it is a good point. Just put on this mask and walk around. He left Halloween behind. He left it behind. He went on and became a director. I mean, and a filmmaker. And it wasn't until I think like 2008 or 2009 or somewhere in and around there where he was sort of brought back into the fold. So that's a good point. That's a good point. And Dick has been consistently working at the stunt level at the very least for many years. It's a valid point. It's a valid point. I'd still interview Nick just because it's Nick, and that would be really cool. But yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not poo-pooing what Nick Castle did at all. I think he did it. He's the best Michael Myers.
I think so too.
But I do think sometimes, it was just a job. It was 2 weeks and he was done. I've had jobs that I can't remember what the hell I did. So why would he, It's
exactly. It's true. It's true. And you've heard me say this, that fans will always remember more about all the nitty gritty detail because they live with it every day. They live with it every year. Actors don't generally, right? It's a job. You do it. It's not that they don't enjoy it. It's not that they don't appreciate the work or the fans, but when they leave the project, they're on to doing other things. At the end of the day, it's a job. They're not they're not looking at it through the same lens as a fan is, which is why you will hear, as Mark Hamill always says, the UPFs, the ultra passionate fans, know so much more about Mark Hamill's experience on Star Wars than Mark Hamill does, and it's because he doesn't, maybe now since The Force Awakens, he's been sort of remembering a lot more, but fans will always know more. And I think that's why too, sometimes it can be disappointing for some fans when they get so excited to ask their favorite actor, what it was like, what was this, what was that? Oh my God. They want the same emotional response reciprocated. Oh, I'm so glad you asked that question. Well, so there we were on set, and I was walking through the door, and then Kubrick was coming down the stairs, right? And then they kind of want that because that's how they read things, and that's how they look up all this stuff. When really at the end of the day, Malcolm McDowell might say, fuck, I don't know, I walked in there, and it's just because that's all he remembers from A Clockwork Orange. He doesn't really remember it. He's not reading all the shit. Does that make sense? I think that makes sense, right?
No, I totally get that. And what you said there about when you meet people that are famous, and I don't engage with famous people hardly ever. I do work in a job, whereas I do have access now and again to famous people, but I just kind of don't engage at all. Although one time I was in Edinburgh in the UK, and I was in a hotel and I was having breakfast, and at the breakfast buffet was George A. Romero. This would be going back about 15, 16 years ago. And I lost my shit. I couldn't believe it. It was like the director of Dawn of the Dead is stood right there. And everything that I've learned from my career about leave these people alone went out the fucking window. And I went running over there and I said, George, I
thought you were saying you hugged him.
I was close. I'm a big fan. I don't know what to say. You're here. This is fantastic. What are you doing here? This is you're in the same hotel as me. This is fantastic. George, I'm a huge fan. This is absolutely superb. Can I? And he just went, I'm just picking a sausage. Do you mind giving me 2 minutes? And I just thought, and the whole world collapsed. And I thought, you dick, what have you done? The guy just wants to have his breakfast, and he's got this stuffy Brit banging on his shoulder, asking all stuff. So I just, after that, I've learned, and I'm never going to do that again. So it's tough, isn't it, when you see people like that? And then the next time that I actually did see a famous person, which was a few weeks after that. I was working and I was in a hotel and I was waiting for my wife. She said, "I'll wait in this room here." And
with your Depends on. No.
Arnold Schwarzenegger walked. Yeah, with my Depends on. And Arnold Schwarzenegger walked in.
No.
Yes. And it was the work I was doing was for a particular film.
Right.
He walked in and I was stood there and I thought, hold your cool. Don't say anything. And I didn't say anything. And I was stood with a friend of mine and he just looked at us both and goes, "What's wrong with you? I'm famous. Get your camera out."
I love it. That sounds exactly like something Arnold Schwarzenegger would say.
Extreme to the other, it's don't engage. Get your camera out.
That's so good. Come on, I'm famous. Take a photo. I can't do an Arnold impression. That's what everybody can do. Come on, I'm here. Come on, take the photo. Come on. Oh my goodness. Listen, we've just crossed 90 minutes. Do you have to go? Can you stick around a little bit longer, or I know you have things you have to do.
I can do a little bit longer. No problem.
A little longer? Okay. Let's see here. Tabitha Short made it her way into the chat room. Hello, Tabitha. Nice to see you here. Great to see you. Let's see here. Adam Fink. I like that. Says, "Dave, I already asked Darren this question, so now I voice it to you. In the pool scene in A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, are the kids seeing Jesse or are they seeing Freddy?" I think actually I did answer this.
This guy asked me this question, and then what was the guy's name? Was it
Adam Fink?
Adam asked me this question on our channel, and then what I did straight away was I fired it to you and Frank. And we had this debate for about an hour about it.
That's what it was. You see, I can't even remember that. I mean, how can Nick Castle remember walking around South Pasadena 45 years ago? Okay, well, my thought is this, that it's an interesting question and a very interesting theory, and I think there's at least circumstantial evidence to support it, that what they are seeing is actually Jesse and not Freddy. However, I'd have to watch the movie again and pay closer attention, but I think there's probably just as much evidence to support the other way, that it actually is Freddy. What do I think the intention is of the filmmakers? In that moment, the intention, I think it's Freddy Krueger. I don't think it's supposed to be Jesse at all. But there's good, it's a strange film, right? 1 minute Freddy's Freddy, and then the next minute he's caressing Lisa's face and saying, "Help me, Lisa." And it's kind of like, what the hell? But he's a dream demon. I mean, maybe he's shape-shifting. I mean, I don't know, but it's an interesting theory. It's an interesting theory. And I think there's some little evidence there to support it, but it can be debunked as well. So I'm not really sure. I'd have to watch the movie again with that in mind through that lens and then kind of come to a conclusion, but it's really interesting. That's what it was, Darren. Yeah, we had a huge conversation about it. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Cinemagic says, would you like to interview Tom Savini? That's a good question, Darren.
Yeah. No, I mean, he's one of my heroes, definitely. Ever since, going back to Martin and Dawn of the Dead and all those early 80s slashers that he did. And what I really like about Savini was that he didn't just disappear. He just stopped doing it.
Yeah.
There were other effects artists came in, CG came in, and he concentrated on his school where he has, and young effects people working there. And he did a TV show but he just kind of stepped away from doing effects work in movies. And I kind of admire that. But he's still very prominent within the genre. So
he is.
Yeah, good for him.
And I'll tell you, I hope I look like him when I'm in my 70s, because the guy's ripped.
He is.
I mean, he's chiseled. He's chiseled. So for a 70-year-old man. So that's all I have to say about that. Is I'm starting now, pumping it back up. I'm just plugging my mouse in here. It was blinking, telling me that the battery was low. But yeah, I wouldn't mind. Yeah, I would. I feel the same way about that Darren does. Yeah, I totally would. Why not? Let's see here. I'm just trying to find lots of people talking amongst themselves, which is great. I love to see that. WLJJ Movie Review says there was a movie that Tom Savini did the effects for. It's his only PG movie. It was made in the 70s, and I forget the name of it. Well, let's go to Tom Savini's IMDb page. Tom Savini. And look at the movies he did in the 70s. And I'll rhyme a few off here, and you tell me if anything rings a bell. So let's go to the makeup department. Okay, so starting in 1974, we have Deranged, Confessions of a Necrophile. I think is how you say that. Necrophilia.
I think that was PG.
I'm sure it was PG. I'm just going through them all, man, because there's only 3. Death Dream, makeup artist, and a movie in 76 called Martin. So Death Dream.
Martin was Arrow.
Martin was...
Yeah, that wasn't a PG, I don't think.
Maybe it was Death Dream. On the poster, it says Dead of Night. A young soldier killed in Vietnam inexplicably shows up to his family's home one night. Doesn't sound like a PG movie.
Oh, that somebody's saying, is it Bob Clark's Death Dream?
Oh, no, you know what? Yeah, I said that. I said Dead. Oh, is it Death Dream? Yes, sorry. Yes. And it was rated PG. It says PG here on IMDb. So that must be it.
Yeah. Cool.
There we go. We discovered it. Death Dream. Death Dream, 1974. Fascinating.
Just before or after Black Christmas was that? What year was Black Christmas?
74.
So Bob Clark did 2 in the same year.
Yes, it is a Bob Clark film. He must have done that. Yeah. Death Dream. Death Dream came out August, and Black Christmas came out at Christmas time. So, yeah. Interesting. That's a movie I actually have not seen. So I'll I'll have to check that out. Evil Alex says, Dave and Darren, were you fans of martial arts films in your childhood? Van Damme, Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris, Seagal, etc. I'm not going to say I was a martial arts fan, but I watched Bloodsport and a couple of the Chuck Norris movies, and then of course the kids movies too that revolved around like ninjas and stuff like that. But I wouldn't say I was a fan of martial arts films.
Yeah, I would watch them for sure. Definitely in the kind of 80s and early 90s, especially the Van Damme stuff. And then, you got into the Universal Soldier, and then you got into Dolph Lundgren stuff. And, I was a Chuck Norris fan in the 80s. So I definitely watched them. I think I only really watched those kind of mainstream ones. But it's interesting how, when Seagal came along as well, it's interesting how big Seagal was with his films. They were huge, those movies that he did. Yeah. He had that run from Hard to Kill and Out for Justice, Marked for Death, and Under Siege. These movies were massive.
They were.
It's a shame that we don't really have that kind of 80s action hero thing is just totally gone now, isn't it? There aren't any action heroes anymore. Well, it's Dwayne Johnson, but it's a different kind of action hero. I was a fan.
Yeah. A lot of things are like bleeding into each other. It feels like back in the 80s and whatnot that genres were more clearly defined and stars pertaining to their genres were more clearly defined. And now, it's more like Dwayne Johnson feels more like an action, romantic comedy drama guy than an action guy. Not that Stallone and Arnie didn't do comedy, but I don't know.
I think it was Jason Knight who posted a picture recently from the Jason from the J-Man's Movie Cave.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a picture of today's superheroes, and it said your superheroes, and there was Iron Man and Spider-Man and all that kind of stuff all lined up. And then next to it, there was an image that said my superheroes, and it was Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Bruce Willis, Steven Seagal, Van Damme, Dolph Lundgren, all those guys. And I guess they were, in a way, they were our superheroes back in the 80s and 90s. Because the superhero genre was just dead.
Yeah.
The Superman died out in 1983, 84. Yeah. There was no superhero films. And each one they tried to do just died until you got to the likes of Spider-Man and Iron Man in the early 2000s.
It's true. And The Rock, for some reason, and look, he's talented. He's obviously gotten a lot better in the acting department than he was when he first began. Although, God, if he gets any bigger, he's just so huge now. And every time I'll see like a video of him talking to the camera or whatever. I don't follow him on Instagram, but every now and then I'll see like something pop up in like a recommendation or something, and he'll be, and I'll hit it and I'll watch him, and he's like, "Hey, what's going on, everybody?" He just sounds like he's just injected himself with a massive amount of roids, because he's what, 48, 49, something like that. He's closing in on 50. And it's not that you can't be huge and big and ripped into your 60s or 70s, but the older you get, the harder it's going to be because you lose muscle mass, you lose bone mass. He's going to have to work that much harder to maintain that the older he gets. And he probably already does, growth hormones, whatever. And I know that might tarnish some people's view of him, but come on. Nobody gets that big or bodybuilder big, just fucking work, because it's a full-time job. And to do what Arnold did in the 70s and in the late 60s, or to be like Lou Ferrigno, or even the bodybuilders of today, it's a full-time job. You don't get like that just going to the gym 3 days a week. To be that big is 10,000 calorie days every day. It's 5 hours at the gym every day. It's a little bit of help in that department every day. I don't know if it's every day, but but it is like, you don't get that huge just working out, or we'd all be that huge, but it is a full-time job. And so The Rock, to be that big, you know, and now he has an image he's got to maintain, you know, and there's even, I think, was it you that told me this? Maybe I read this off of like Hollywood Reporter or something. There's even, no surprise, but there's even clauses in, not that this is anything new, but, you know, I was like, oh yeah, I guess that would be, like, it makes sense, but it seems so like, guys, come on, you're movie stars. Okay, like, you're not actually these people. And that's what I found so funny is, like, I think it was Statham, maybe it was in and around when Hobbs and Shaw, I think that's it, right? I think it was in and around that time that, like, Statham and The Rock had, like, things in their contracts where, like, they, you know, they can't have them looking like idiots in certain moments, or there's certain scenes or certain things. I was like, guys, you do know you're not actually the action stars you play. I'm not saying that Jason Statham doesn't know a thing or two about martial arts. I know that he's got, you know, a bit of that background. I'm not, but you're not actually these people. And sometimes I think they get so caught up in the image that they actually come to think that they are these people and that they can hang from skyscrapers and save people's lives with one leg. And it's like, you're not actually these people. You're just a meathead who works out, you know, 7 days a week, 5 hours a day, and pretends to be these people. Like, can you stop this, please? Anyway, I don't know where I don't know where the hell I was going with that, but Darren?
I know what you mean. It's. I like The Rock. I think he's, you know, he's one of these guys that will
I do too.
He'll do anything, won't he? He'll have a go at anything, and you know, he's a little too kind of family friendly for me. There was that kind of passing of the torch between him and Schwarzenegger, I think, in the Rundown film. But I don't think, you know, The Rock's movies are never really kind of up to the sort of level of action or violence or anything like that the 80s stars were ever.
I agree with that. I agree.
And I think that's a conscious effort on his part as well. Probably.
It could be. And look, I mean, he's incredibly charismatic and he's handsome and I get all that, but I just find it so funny. I see him there in the gym. What's going on? You know, and he's just like all these things. I'm just sitting there thinking, God, the veins popping out of, I mean, they have their own gravitational pull, you know, it's just like, it's just insane to me. It's just funny, but I do like him. But I agree. There's something about Schwarzenegger and Stallone in the 80s. It was just more visceral and gritty and grimy. And, you know, you almost felt the sweat coming from the screen. Now things are too polished and safe and, you know,
yeah.
Of course, if he's watching this, he's probably like, yeah, you tried doing all that shit. Touche. HT, also known as Dominic St. Clair, sends in $5. Thank you, buddy. He says, hey, how has your day been? Pretty good. I have a question. Do you have any suggestions on how to start a podcast like the Slaughtered Lamb podcast? Well, we were talking about that a bit earlier with Anna. I will let Darren answer that.
Yeah, no, I think for us it was fairly easy because we started as an audio podcast and kind of, you know, got used to ourselves that way, got used to our voices and got used to each other as well, because you have to kind of develop a flow, especially if you're doing it with somebody else. You have to know when to cut in and when not to cut in. And even now we still kind of cut in over the top of each other now and again, but it was a good kind of exercise in learning the basics, I guess. And you didn't have to worry about putting yourself on camera. So I would certainly recommend trying the audio route first. There are costs associated with it. It's not too expensive, but if you've got a laptop or something like that, you can buy yourself an external mic and produce something fairly decent with a standard laptop these days. So yeah, I'd start small and see how it goes. Don't invest too much at this stage, and just take it step by step.
Great advice. I agree with everything. Yep, for sure. Have realistic expectations and just kind of, yeah, see where the chips fall. And definitely do it on something you're really passionate about. You know, a topic that you really love to talk about, and be you. Don't be anybody else. That doesn't mean you can't take inspiration, but always don't fake it, right? Be you, put your real personality out there. Let me see here. Liam. I don't know if I've seen you in here before, Liam. Welcome. Do you guys believe the Hollywood star is now irrelevant or dead? That's a good question. Well, here's the thing. So for those of you that
I'm going to stay away from this one.
Sorry?
I said, I'll let you answer this one. I'm going to stay away from this
one. Okay, I will just say that, do I think the Hollywood star is irrelevant? I will say that, no, I don't. But what some maybe average, when I say average people, I mean people who are not like really into the movies and all that kind of stuff, the general audience out there may not know is that with a Hollywood star, you have to be, I'm a little hazy on the details, but I believe it is you are asked if you want one, essentially. And if you say yes, you have to pay for it. And you have to pay for the upkeep of that star forever. So it's not like it's given they say, hey, you've done so much amazing stuff. I mean, it kind of is. Like you get to a point in your career where you are a pop culture sort of, you're in the zeitgeist, you have the footprint. They ask if you want it. If you do, you say yes, sure. And then the bill is, and then like, a lot of it's all on you. I don't know. I don't think you have to pay for the whole ceremony and all that kind of shit. I think that might be taken care of, although I don't know 100%. But the star itself, you pay for the upkeep of it. You pay for it. And that's one of the reasons why Al Pacino doesn't have a star on the Walk of Fame. I don't know if you guys know that. But Al Pacino's like, fuck that. He's like, screw this shit. No star on the Hall of Fame. No, I don't know if you said that. But I believe he doesn't have a star. I'm pretty sure he doesn't. There's a lot of actors, musicians, celebrities who you would be like, they don't have a star on the Walk of Fame. And it's not because it's something that's organic. It really is more business, kind of like, okay, we're going to give it to you and then you have to pay for it. And I think it's like $30,000 or $40,000 or something for your star on the Walk of Fame, and then like $5,000 every year to something like that. It's not, don't quote me on that, but it's like that kind of thing. So it's not as organic as you might think it is. But I think some actors too, who can afford it, obviously go, yeah, like I'm getting a star on the Walk of Fame. That's fucking amazing. Like the optics are just really cool. Right. And if you can afford to do it and have it, then that's great. The thing with the star is that when I was in Hollywood, the last few times I've been, we've stayed very close to the Walk of Fame. And my girlfriend and I will often walk, the Walk of Fame. We'll do the touristy kind of stuff, and we'll go over to the Chinese theater and look at all the footprints and handprints and things like that. And I don't know, there's something about the downfall of like when you have Clark Gable and then you look to your right and you see Twilight, it's like there's something about seeing Clark Gable's hands and seeing like, Harrison Ford and seeing like Steven Spielberg. And then you see people here like, why do they have their hands cemented in the, the Twilight, there are people that you're like, you got Marilyn Monroe and you got, Humphrey Bogart and, all these golden age classic. And then you have like, Steve Buscemi. No, you don't have Steve Buscemi, but you have names where you're kind of like, what, so there's there's almost like a quality down sort of like what the prerequisite is to offer, to get your stars and to get it just seemed more classy back in the 40s and the 50s and, the 60s. And now, they're giving it to, because I think too, what's important is I think even Bieber has his star, and I don't think he should. And I think what's important is that in order to get a star, you would think that did you know that Spielberg didn't get his star until 2003? Well, he was already a legend by that time. I mean, you think, Jurassic Park, Indiana Jones, Schindler's List, Saving Private Ryan, The Color Purple, Close Encounters, Jaws, all those things, and he didn't have a star on the Walk of Fame. And I think that it should be kind of a thing where you don't get it until if it was done right. You wouldn't get it until later in life, like when you've earned it, like you've earned the star, because just because you happen to be big right now doesn't mean you're going to be big 6 months from now. There's a lot of people that come and go and that just are there very briefly and then gone. And I don't know, there's just a lot of stars I see, you know, as you're walking along and you're like, is that person? Yep. What? They haven't been relevant in 10 years and they were there for like 3 minutes. What? They have a star? What's going on? Anyway, so I like the idea of the star, but I do think that it's kind of, you know, it's not as prestigious as maybe it was first intended or once was. I don't know, Darren, am I off way on that, or do you have anything to say to that?
Question. I thought maybe, I don't know, Liam. I thought Liam was referring to Hollywood star, as in the Tom Cruise, are they irrelevant?
Oh, I thought he meant the Walk of Fame stuff, because when you say
he may have done. I read it, whether, you know, given what's happened, especially in the last week and everything, I read it as to whether it was, you know, an actual actor that he was talking about.
Okay, well, fair enough, Liam. If that, yeah, no problem, Liam. If that was what you were referring to, my apologies. I think maybe it's because when I think of the Hollywood star, I think of the stars on the Walk of Fame. But if you're referring to the Hollywood star in general, is irrelevant today, I let me quickly answer that, because my apologies for going off on the other thing, but hopefully you learned a thing or two if you didn't know anything about that. So hopefully it wasn't completely irrelevant. The Hollywood star, like the status, the Hollywood star, I do think is not as prestigious as it once was. Yes, I do. You know, I remember a time when you would go to the movies because of a name attached to it. You know, and I think that the last sort of real stars that there are, I mean, is really sort of your Harrison Fords, your Tom Cruises. I think they are sort of the last of an era. And I think now, I think what it is because it's so easy today to become a star. You can be a TikTok star. You can be a social media star. You can make millions of dollars farting into a jar and selling it. You know, you can make millions of dollars sitting on TikTok going and gain a following, and you're the guy. You know what I mean? And then if you go on talk shows, you're introduced as and here it is, Dave McRae, a huge star from TikTok, the guy. Let him give him a round of applause. Everybody knows you as the guy. You know what I mean? Like, but that's what it is, right? Like, there's no, it's not as, it's just anybody can do it. And so I think it does water it down to what the illusion of Hollywood, right? Not that there wasn't shady garbage things going on all the time, but there was this illusion, you know, that, and maybe it is better that the illusion's been broken a little bit, you know, that the cat's kind of out of the bag and we see some of the darker side as well. But there was an illusion for many years that it was this very, wow, the Oscars, the glitz, wow, stars, you know, things like that. And nobody was jumping online, this thing called the internet, becoming a star themselves. It was something that was not obtainable to the average person. And it was something very special because of that. And I think the specialness of a star has just been completely watered down and to something that takes nothing to become. You can literally do, like I said, fart in a jar and sell it on TikTok. Apparently somebody does that and make, you know, lots of money, or just do what that kind of thing. And you get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, if not millions of followers. And all of a sudden the ad people want to get in on it and you're making all this money and everything for nothing, you know? And so I think the threshold of what a star is really pathetic now to some degree, and the lines are blurred and everything just, it doesn't mean anything anymore. It doesn't have the same weight that it once did, say 30 years ago. Okay, so that's what I have to say on that. Darren, do you agree? Or can you say anything? Okay, all right, fair enough. But am I all right, I'll talk off camera. I just want to make sure I'm not saying something that maybe is completely incorrect.
You know, the golden age of Hollywood produced some huge stars and people looked up to as being stars. But now, as you said, everything's kind of diluted now, and the definition of a star is, like you said, it could be not MAGA cat. MAGA cat's in our chat. I went, what did they call that cat with the grumpy face?
Oh, Grumpy Cat.
Grumpy Cat's a star. You know, it's just anything or anybody can be a star now.
That's right.
So, yeah.
That's right. Yep. No, fair enough. And my apologies, Liam, for wasting everybody's time. Now I understand why Darren was laughing through my spiel. He's like, Dave. Typical Dave. All right, we'll do
a lecture on cement on Hollywood Boulevard.
I don't, for some reason in my head, Hollywood star, I'm thinking of the stars. Oh my goodness, my apologies. Well, hey, you know what? I mean, hopefully we all learned a thing or two here. I don't know. I know I did. All right, we'll do one more because we've hit the 2-hour mark here. So we'll do one more question, and I'm going to let Darren pick it and let him answer it first.
Okay, let me have a look. I wanted to say as well to Amstel, yes, Amstel is me, the moderator on Dave's channel. He couldn't put 2 and 2 together there, though.
Oh.
Yeah. Let's have a look. Zach Gaxiola says, Dave McRae, depending on how well Halloween Ends turns out, do you think it could make Halloween Kills and even the story of the entire trilogy a whole better for you in retrospect?
Well, I'll let you answer that first, Darren, because I went off on quite the spiel there.
It could. What I want from Halloween Ends probably isn't going to happen. I want a more linear story. I want a more kind of grounded story. I want something that's akin to what we got in the original Halloween. Ideally, and I've said this a few times before, and obviously this isn't happening, but I would have liked to have seen John Carpenter direct the last movie and bookend his career. But yeah, I want to see something small town, small, no kind of distractions, no Tivolis, no Sartains, none of that stuff. Just a great, small, creepy, atmospheric Halloween film that ties it all up with a nice bow on top, and that's it. It's done, and we don't hear from Halloween for a long, long time.
I agree. The only thing that gives me hope that maybe we might get something like that is when David Gordon Green said that, they're making this a smaller picture. So it's more of a coming of age kind of thing. And I mean, listen, it's always possible that whatever they do in Ends makes me appreciate Kills. What they did in Kills made me appreciate 18 more, but for all the wrong reasons. It didn't make me appreciate 18 more because Kills was so great. It made me appreciate 18 more because Kills, I think, missed the mark for the most part. I love the opening and the flashback and all that, but the rest of the film, I think, was a bit of a disappointment. Well, a disappointment to say the least. That being said, it's always possible. I think they do need to go back to more of the 18 style. So not as big. I mean, Halloween Kills was not a big production on the scale of like a Marvel movie or something like that, but it was a big production for a Star Wars movie. A lot of extras, a lot of set pieces, a lot of moving parts, a lot of locations. It was a lot. And I read somewhere, maybe it was the Total Film magazine or something. David Gordon Green said that it was because they only had 6 to 8 weeks to shoot this thing or whatever. And it was a go kind of thing because there was a lot they were getting done. I mean, they rebuilt the Myers house on a soundstage, for God's sakes. Yeah. So there was a lot of moving parts. And I think the impression I get is that they're going back to that's something that might be a little more manageable. And a smaller sort of film. And so I'm with Darren. I think if they do that, there's a better chance that the film is going to feel not as disjointed, that the structure of the piece and the pacing is going to feel better, more in line with 18. And I want to see more stalking and lurking. I want to have a stalking scene that lasts longer than 23 seconds or however long that was. I want to see, draw that out and more of that OG Michael, you don't pander to, you got to make your own thing and you got to do it, but just in the shadows, make it smaller, make it more of an intimate kind of thing. And then I think it will help me appreciate Ends, but not necessarily make me appreciate Kills more.
Do you think the Myers house will be in it? I don't think it will.
I don't think it will either.
Look at it, I think, what happened in 63, I'm surprised it was still standing after that. Just because, kid was murdered in there. 78, I thought after 78, they're going to destroy it. 2018, Halloween Kills, more murders happen in there. They burn this thing to the ground. They demolish it.
Yeah.
Surely it's not going to be in the next film.
I don't think so either. And if it
of respect, it would be gone.
Yeah, I agree. And if it is in the movie, which I don't think it is, then it should be abandoned. I don't think there should be anybody living there. I'm still sort of torn how I feel about Big John, them and being in the mire. I don't know. I don't think I would have written it the same way. I think I would have just had the house abandoned, condemned, and maybe look even more dilapidated, not like completely, but it's even more so. I wouldn't have had anybody living there. But anyway, I don't think they will, but whatever they do, it's got to be a smaller picture and I don't know, but it's hard to gauge the direction they're going. I'm not really sure.
I think it's great. I'm really enjoying, like I said before, not knowing, and I'll wait for that trailer.
For sure.
Really excited by it.
Yeah, me too. It's fun sort of speculating on where it's going to go. And I'm with you. Once this is over, it's over. It's over. It's over. Let it rest. You want to reboot it 10 years from now or whatever. Or
there was some chat. I think it was it? Were you online last night or was it Friday night? I can't remember now.
I was online yesterday afternoon.
Yesterday afternoon, it may have been. Yeah.
No, I wasn't. It was Friday afternoon.
Friday, that was it. Friday. Somebody mentioned about linking this movie to Halloween 3, to Silver Shamrock and whatever. And it'd be interesting if they could do something like that. So it doesn't continue the Michael side of things, but it leaves it in such a way that we know that that's coming next, or a version of that is coming next.
Okay, so here's what I say to that. So yes, I think it would be very interesting, but only from the perspective of that, number one, Michael is not wearing a Silver Shamrock mask.
No.
Because then there's the explanation.
Exactly, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So when we say that it might be interesting to connect these three movies to Silver Shamrock, we're not saying that, because I think that's what people immediately first go to is, oh, he's wearing a Silver Shamrock mask. Nope, no Silver Shamrock mask whatsoever. Number two is, if you're going to connect it to the Silver Shamrock Season of the Witch story, then you're likely going to want to connect it to the story as a reboot, as a remake, because you can't connect it to a potential sequel to Season of the Witch, because in Season of the Witch, Michael's a fictional character on the television. And so you would have to, that would be the clear-cut sign here that they are remaking Season of the Witch and establishing it as actually in the same universe as Haddonfield, as opposed to disconnected from the universe like in the original Season of the Witch. Those would be the only two things that I would say you would have to do. And you would have to make it clear, because one of the things that people would do, I mean, if you say, no, it's not Silver Shamrock Mask, okay. But if you connect it, one of the first thing fans are going to do is going to go, how's that possible? Like Chalice was watching Halloween on the TV. That doesn't make any sense, right? What are we going, like Nightmare on Elm Street 7 here? Like full meta? What the hell's going on? So that would be, but I would be down with that if it was like a segue into that story. So Michael dies and whatever, right? It's over. And then there's something that leads you to believe, like there's a news report about how in the town of what's the name of the town again? Is it Saint something? In Season of the Witch?
Oh God.
Anyways, the name of that town, the chat room will let us know, the name of that town, right? In the such and such town, there was an incident, and it's clearly like, some children bought some Halloween, which is kind of cool because you also see the children wearing the Season of the Witch masks in Halloween 18 and kills. Michael's, I think he kills the guy with the skull mask, and he's standing there with the mask in his hand. I believe that was the Tate, or maybe that was James Jude Courtney. And Tate just did the thing off the car. But anyway, so you definitely can connect it. You absolutely can connect it. But it must not have anything to do with Michael Myers, the way he is. And you would have to then be leading into a complete and utter remake of Season of the Witch. Otherwise, it just doesn't make sense continuity.
However Michael dies, whoever's left standing, dawn's breaking, the radio station's there, whatever that has to do with it all, whether, I don't know, whether there's some sort of skirmish on there and Michael falls off or Laurie falls off or whatever that's happening, we start to fade out for the end of the movie. And just as it starts to fade, the radio station starts playing the Silver Shamrock theme, and then it just cuts to black.
What do you think that would do for audiences? Do you think so you're saying the mask is there?
Oh, no, there's no Silver Shamrock masks. There's nothing.
No, but sorry, say that again. Okay.
So Michael's died however he's died.
Right.
Him to die.
Right.
Dawn is breaking after whatever the final girl battle is at the end there, or final guy. And as dawn's breaking, the movie starts to fade out, but the radio station is still playing, and the radio station plays the Silver Shamrock theme just as the credits roll.
Or imagine this. The radio station, all you hear is, say it's like there goes my light. Say you have, that's a tag, get off the air. That's my light telling me to get off. What if, I kind of like that actually, Darren. What if, okay, so like the sun is beginning to rise, the radio station's there. Maybe it's like a drone shot pulling out of the town. So like we're kind of coming up and you see the town and you hear like, it's clearly a radio or whatever, and we're pulling out, and you just hear the beginning of it. Bum 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 bum. It's so identifiable, you know what it is, but it doesn't play the whole song. It just goes bum 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 bum, and it cuts to black, and then it's quiet, and then the credits roll with some other piece of music, and it's like, wait a minute, what does that mean? How can you just? That actually might be even more impactful than playing the Silver Shamrock theme all the way through. What do you think of that?
I'm down with that. I want to see them do a version of Halloween 3 anyway, be it a TV series or a remake of the movie, or a sequel to the original movie. But I really want to see them do a version of Halloween 3.
Yeah.
And if we're going to start doing, what do they call it now? Oh God, what's the word now when you
requel?
No, not a requel. Anthology. Sorry.
Oh, anthology. Yeah.
Yeah. Then why not kind of kick it off at the end of this film like that?
Well, as you've heard me say on my channel, I think it makes the most sense to tackle Season of the Witch. Now, whether that's a reboot, a remake, a sequel, a mini series, a TV series, a theatrical film, I don't know. I don't know what Malek Akkad's got going on in his head, or if they've had those kinds. I think they have had those kinds of talks. I think so, because as I said to you, there was a little live stream that Blum did on Instagram about a month or so ago. And he was like I don't know if he was at his home or in some office or something. And it was, I don't know, he's just sitting there and he's got his vertical video going on, and he's there and he's like, hey, what's going on, everybody? Looks like he just got out of the shower or something. And somebody in the chat, I don't know who it was, asked him a question about Season of the Witch. And I'm paraphrasing what Blum said. Okay, so don't quote me on this. Don't start going to the boards in the chat, but McRae said they're doing it. I'm not saying they're saying that, but the way he kind of just went, oh, Jason Blum, you're going to do Season of the Witch. We're talking about things. John from, it was something like that. It was a very sort of, oh, That's interesting. I'm not saying he used the words exactly they're talking about, but it was something like that. It stood out to me like they've had talks. There's been discussions at the very least about this. Doesn't mean they're going to do it, but it's the way Blum could have said, nah, or yes, yeah. It clearly communicated to me that there was a rumbling about it. Whether it ends up happening or not, I don't know, but I think it makes the most sense. It's got a built-in fan base. It's you're sidestepping, you're not rebuilding from scratch. And I think there's an opportunity to make something really, really cool there. So it makes the most sense to me, and rather than even continuing with Michael, depending on what the box office is.
It's a shame that Frank isn't here, because he's the king of thinking of how to kind of end these things and link in other things. And he always has good ideas when it comes to this. Like his Texas Chainsaw idea for the ending of Texas Chainsaw. But
yes.
Yeah. No, I'm excited to see what they do.
Yeah. Me too. And I'd be down. I like Season of the Witch, but I'm not one of those people that likes it enough that I would be really disappointed if they just remade it. I'd be okay if they remade it, because I think there's an opportunity to make that movie even better. But I would be okay for a sequel as well. I love that idea. Ending at dun 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 dun. What? That totally was Season of the Witch. What are you doing? What does that mean? What does it mean? And the fans will be, orgasming all over their computers. All right. Well, listen, Darren, thank you so much for coming on this afternoon. I really appreciate you coming on short notice as well. I just thought, hey, I'll reach out and see if you guys wanted to pop on. Obviously, in case you're just joining us, Frank could not come on because he was working today and peeling deers off of trucks. But Frank, if you're listening, we love you. And don't worry, I plan on getting both Darren and Frank on the show again very soon with a specific topic that we're going to discuss. And that's going to be a lot of fun for sure. So, thanks very much for coming on.
Well, it's been a pleasure, and it's good to see so many familiar faces in the chat as well.
For sure. And I was going to say, and now here's the part where I say thank you to my moderators, Frank Riker, Tabitha Short, Darren Sands, and Chris Baber, for doing what you guys do. I really appreciate it. Thank you to all the super chat questions that came in today. There were some good questions. And my apologies for Liam for going off on a tangent that had nothing to do with what you asked. But hey, you know what? You come for the show. Thanks very much. I appreciate it. To the non-super chat questions as well. And I will be back tomorrow night on another episode of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. So, in the meantime, in between time, Darren and I will talk to you guys. Oh, and by the way, let me just put Darren's channel in there again as well. Here is the channel to the Slaughtered Lamb Movie Podcast. I'm putting that in the chat room. Folks, that is, if you have not subscribed to the Slaughtered Lamb, go over there, subscribe, watch their content. You'll thank me later. Sincerely, they do great work over there. So please do that when you can. And Darren, where can people find you on social media?
Slaughtered Lamb Movie Podcast has a Facebook page, I think. That's the title of it. Yep, the Slaughtered Lamb Movie Podcast. Twitter is at The Slaughtered, or Slaughtered The, I think. And then we're on Instagram as well. Usually twice a week episodes. And we're going to do some live stuff soon as well. So, yeah.
Cool. Awesome. And if you go over to their channel and you go to their About page, I think your links are there to your socials, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Are they there?
Yeah.
So that's an easy way to go over and follow them. So please do. Well, that's going to do it for us. Darren, stick around. We'll have a formal goodbye, and I'll see you guys tomorrow night. Alrighty. In the meantime and in between time, cheers.
Cheers.